Hi, in this video guys, you'll be learning how to cut and sew this beautiful shift gown. It is very simple, and if this is what you're interested in learning, keep on watching. And if you're yet to hit on the subscribe button, please subscribe and let's get started. For this gown, it is divided into two parts, the upper part and the down parts. So let's get started. I'll be making use of 2.5 yards of fabric for this tutorial. Now this is for a 16 years old girl, so I folded my fabric into two, and I'm going to use the biggest part of her measurement to fold. Now I'm trying to mark out her bust circumference divided by 4 plus some inches, which is the ease allowance and the sewing allowance. Okay, now after I have gotten that, I went ahead to fold and then marked out the starting line. Now from the starting line, I'm going to take it down to her bust point, 9.5 inches, and that is where the upper part is going to stop, because from the shoulder to the upper part stops right at the bust point line. Okay, now after that, from the center fold on the shoulder line, I'm going to divide the shoulder into two and then add half an inch for stitching allowance. I'll go down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and then from the bust point line, I'm going to come up by 2 inches for the chest line. Now on this chest line, I'm going to make sure that I also have the shoulder divided by 2, and then mark it, and then connect this point to the shoulder slope. That will be my armhole depth. Now after that, from the center fold on the shoulder line, I'm going to mark neck width and the neck depth of 3 inches standard. Now remember, this depends on the type of neckline you want to use. So I went ahead to connect the line with my curve ruler and then connected the neck width into the shoulder slope. Now I'm going to divide my armhole depth into two to find the middle, and after that I'll go in by half an inch. Okay, now I'll move over to the chest line and divide the bust circumference by 4, add up half an inch for ease allowance because this is a shift dress, and then 1.5 inches for sewing allowance, and then after that I'll go ahead and connect my armhole curve. Now guys, after this, I'm going to equally repeat the same thing on the bust point line. So bust circumference divided by 4, I'll mark it down. So I'm just literally trying to measure out what I have on the chest line because they are all the same. What I have on the chest line is what I'm actually going to input on the bust point line. I went ahead to input that, and then I will come down and mark half an inch for stitching allowance. Now this half an inch is going to serve as the sewing allowance, which I'm going to use to sew in this upper part to the down part of this dress. Okay, now after this, I went ahead to cut this out. So we have our fronts. Now I'm going to move over to the back. Okay, for the back, I'm going to be making use of zipper allowance of 1.5 inches. So from the center fold of the back, I came in by 1.5 inches. That would be for the zipper allowance, and then after that I placed in the fronts. Now after placing in the fronts, what I'm going to do first of all is to mark out the shoulder line. Okay, as you can see me doing like this, and then from this shoulder line I'll take it down to 1 inch for the neck depth of the back, and of course the neck width is going to remain 3 inches. So I'm going to use my curve to connect my neck together. I'm trying to make sure that I arrange it very well before connecting. Now after this, I'm going to go ahead and cut out exactly what I have for the front. Okay, now you can equally see I've not cut out the front armhole yet. Okay, so when I was cutting out the front space, I went ahead to follow the back armhole to cut out. Now I'm going to come in by half an inch on the bust point line just to have like a little bit of deepness right at the back, because I don't want any form of bulge around the back, although that is not the waist, but I just did that. Okay, if you like, you can actually leave yours like that. Now after this, I went ahead to cut out my front armhole, and you guys, this is my front and this is my back piece. Okay, so now next thing I'm going to do is to fold in another fabric, which I'm going to use to cut my facing, because I'm not using a lining for this. So I want to make use of facing to turn the neckline. So I'm going to follow the shape of my neck. This is the front. I've placed in the front. And remember, the front is always on fold. So I've placed it in. And this type of facing, I'll be making it to enter into my armhole. Okay, now from the neckline, I went down by 4 inches, and that will be the depth of my facing, as you can see. So I've cut out the front part. Now I'm going to cut out the back. So I folded my fabric into two again, and then this is my back. I'm going to start with the neckline. After cutting out the neckline, I'll take it down to the armhole, you can see, and then I'll use the fronts, okay, to measure, to make sure that the front depth and the back is the same. So I went ahead to do that and cut it out, and then I'm going to open up the back, because the back is supposed to be two pieces. Okay, so guys, I am done, and now I'm going to show you how to sew this together. So I'll move over to my sewing machine and ensure that the front and the facing are right side facing each other, and I will go sew the neckline, top stitch, and after that I will equally do the same for the back. So here is my back. I'll place the right sides to the right sides, okay, of each of the back piece, and then sew the neckline and top stitch on the neckline. Okay, now after that, I equally went ahead to join the shoulders, and you guys, this is what I have. And the depth of the yoke, I also went ahead to weave it and sew this inward, like hem the down parts. I hope you guys understand. So here is what we have. This is both the front and the back after we have joined the facing and equally joined the shoulders. Now next thing I'm going to do is turn this right side facing each other. Okay, so I'm going to place the right side facing each other and join the side seam, but before that you have to hold the armhole area of the facing, which is what I just showed you, and then go ahead and join the side seam using 1.5 inches, which is the sewing allowance that I left. Now I am done with it, and I went ahead to open up my zipper allowance, because I've joined the zipper allowance. Now before you open up the zipper allowance, ensure that you give it a good press, because that is where you're going to follow to join your zipper. Okay, so guys, after opening it, I'm going to measure my waistline. Now you can see this is both the front and the back. I've opened up the zipper and I'm trying to measure the waist area. Now after measuring it, what I have right there was 40.5 inches. Okay, now this 40.5 inches, I'm going to times it by 2. You guys understand? So I will get the down parts, which will be enough for me to gather on the upper parts, okay, to give it that shift dressed effect. I hope you guys understand. So here is my fabric, and the width of this fabric is 44 inches. Now this ankara comes by 44. I don't know why, because ankara comes by 45. So I went ahead to cut out 2 of it. Remember that 44 plus 44 is 88, and I had 81 inches, right? So I even added extra to it. And now for the length, I minus 10 inches, which is for the upper part, and then the full length of this gown is 36 inches plus some inches, which I also added for folding the down parts. Okay, So I hope you guys understood what I did there. So that is it for the down parts. Now, remember I told you that I cut out 44 plus 44. So what I did right here was to fold one part of it, okay, and then cut it into two pieces. Now I'm going to be joining it on the side of one of the 44 inches Ankara that I have. I hope you guys are getting me. So after joining it, it will now make it very long. So this is what I have. You can see, okay, I am done joining it. Now what I'm going to go do now is stitch on the upper part, okay. I'm going to use a loose stitch to do that and then gather it. Now after gathering it, I'll fix it into the upper part, that is the waistline of this upper part, okay. So guys, I am done fixing it and you can see what I have. Can you see? So this is what this looks like. Now I'm going to fold it into two so that we join the zipper allowance. Now I'm going to, from the top, which is the neckline of my gown, sew down to 17 inches with a loose stitch, which is where I'm going to fix my zipper, and to the down part I'm going to sew with a tight stitch. So guys, I am done stitching this and you can see that our gown is coming out already. So next I went ahead to cut out my sleeve. Now this is a basic sleeve. It is very simple, and I dropped recently how to cut out your basic sleeve. If you haven't watched it, please go ahead and watch that. Okay, I have so many tutorials on how to cut out your basic sleeve. Okay, so guys, as you can see, I am done cutting out the sleeve, and this is one part of the two part of the sleeve, because the sleeve comes into two parts: the upper part, which is this one, and then the down part, which looks like a flare. So let me measure the armhole. The armhole is 8 inches, but because this is a shift dress, I made it 9 inches. Now the round biceps is 5 inches. Because this is a shift dress, I made it 6 inches, as you can see, plus 1 inch sewing allowance. So guys, it is time for us to cut out the down part, okay. And now remember, like I said, the round bicep is 6 inches. So what I'm going to do is fold my fabric into 4, because I'm going to be cutting out two parts of the down part at once, okay. So guys, now I'm going to determine the wideness of the down part. So what I did right here was to times this round biceps by 2.5 inches, and you know my round biceps is 6 inches, so 6 times 2.5 inches, it gave me 15 inches. But I went ahead to mark out 16 inches because I added 1 inch for sewing allowance. So I've gotten the wideness and I went ahead to cut it out. Now it is time for me to determine the length which I want for the down parts. Okay, now the fabric is not straight, so I went ahead to trim off some parts just to have a straight line. Now what I'm going to do next is bring in the pencil sleeve and then use it to determine the length which I truly want for my sleeve. Okay, so I measured it and I think I made use of 18 inches and went ahead to cut it out. Okay, so guys, this is what I have for this sleeve. As you can see, I'm going to go ahead and chalk the wrong part so that by the time I want to sew this, I won't get myself confused. And you can see how wide the down part is. So what I'm going to do is sew a loose stitch right at the upper part and then gather it on the biceps line of the pencil sleeve and equally fold the down part of the sleeve. Okay, now guys, after stitching this is what I have. You can see how beautiful the sleeve is looking already. I'll go ahead and fixing the sleeve to the armhole, turn the hemline using 1 inch and equally fixing the zipper right at the back, and then put this on the mannequin for you guys to see. And you guys, here is the final look of the gown. This is giving 10 over 10 for me. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and if you find this tutorial helpful, please do make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it so that more people can get to see it. If you are yet to hit on the subscribe button, please subscribe and turn on your post notification so that you get notified for whenever I upload a new video. I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.